Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do Exodus 22. I've got my notes here, I've got my Bible, so let's get into it. The first thing is to read verses 1 through 4. So I'm going to do that and then I'll read my notes. Verse 1 of Exodus 22. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. But if the sun has risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the stolen beast is found alive in his possession, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. And I wrote down multiplied restitution when stolen, killed, or sold. The thieves don't just have to give it back, they have to give back multiple. So then verses 5 and 6. If a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his beast loose, and it feeds in another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best in his own field and in his own vineyard. If fire breaks out and catches in thorns, so that the stacked grain or the standing grain or the field is consumed, he who started the fire shall make full restitution. And I wrote, if you cause damage, the best you have should be taken to pay for it. So that's kind of the main point. If someone is destroying something or stealing from something that is someone else's, they then would have to not only return it, but give back multiple or make it right in some way. I forget if it was this one or another chapter, but it made me think of, these are some intense rules, but it's also important that the people have these rules because any civilized society needs rules to operate, but it also gives a standard for what is supposed to happen and the best way to deal with when someone does something wrong to someone else. Okay, so then I'm going to read verses 7 through 20. And what I would encourage you to do is to pay attention to what your version says of these verses. I'm reading ESV, but you might be reading something else. And then also to just continue to think about what this tells us about God, ways that you can apply it, and just what is, sorry I'm talking slowly, it's weird, but what is meaningful for you from this passage. So verse 7. If a man gives to his neighbor money or goods to keep safe, and it is stolen from the man's house, then if the thief is found, he shall pay double. If the thief is not found, the owner of the house shall come near to God and show whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. For every breach of trust, whether it is for an ox, for a donkey, for a sheep, for a cloak, or for any kind of lost thing, of which one says, this is it, the case, or they say this is it, the case of both parties shall come before God. The one whom God condemns shall pay double to his neighbor. And notice it does say, or for any kind of lost thing, literally anything. So it's we might not have sheep or an ox or whatever, but this is also talking about any lost thing. If you take or something is missing of someone else's, this could still apply. Okay, verse 10. If a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep safe, and it dies or is injured or is driven away without anyone seeing it, an oath by the Lord shall be between them both to see whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. The owner shall accept the oath, and he shall not make restitution. But if it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is torn by beasts, let him bring it as evidence. Ooh, sounds kind of gross. He shall not make restitution for what has been torn. If a man borrows anything of his neighbor and it is injured or dies, the owner not being with it, he shall make full restitution. If the owner was with it, he shall not make restitution. If it was hired, it came for its hiring fee. Interesting. So then we get into laws about social justice with verse 16. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall make money equal to the bride price for virgins. Yeah. So this is talking about like if she agrees to it, not talking about being attacked or anything like that. So that's what they're saying should be done to make it right. Okay, so then verse 18, you shall not permit a sorceress to live. I'm going to leave that there. Verse 19, whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. Verse 20, whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. Yikes. So then the next note that I had was from verses 21 through 27. So let's go ahead and read that. Verse 21, you shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you are sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry. And my wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him, and you shall not you shall not exact interest from him. If ever you take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body, in what else shall he sleep? And if he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Okay, so then I wrote, and I think hopefully this goes along with what I was just thinking now. Yeah, not using others' needs for your own gain, and also, just not taking advantage of people who are in need. And it also is noticeable that God is the protector of those who are vulnerable. Okay, so then verse 28 says, you shall not revile God nor curse a ruler of your people. And I thought this was a really interesting verse, so I'm going to read my notes and then we'll reread it. You shall not revile. That means you should not criticize in an abusive or angrily insulting manner. You shall not criticize in an abusive or angrily insulting manner God. So that's something to think about. Do you ever do that when things don't go your way? Do you criticize God or angrily insult him as if he doesn't know everything, as if he doesn't know what's best and want what's best? I also wrote, nor should you curse a ruler of your people. How do you treat your leaders, especially if you disagree with them? There's a recognition of authority in this verse. And then I wrote honorable. Oh yeah. We should be honorable because of who we are, not because of what they do. Rulers or leaders or whoever is in authority, even if you don't agree with them. I'm going to reread the verse. Verse 28. You shall not revile God nor curse a ruler of your people. And then verse 29, you shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. So there are lots of parts in the Bible where God talks about us giving the first fruits of what we have to him. And I wrote, you shall not delay, and I circled it and underlined it. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but can I get it? Or is it just going to get my face? I don't know if it's getting it. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest. That means all of it. And from the outflow of your presses, anything that you are producing, anything that is increased to you, anything that you make, really, you shall not delay to offer it. Yeah, I think that's important, because there have certainly been times where I have been slow to tithe or just forgotten about it altogether, which is not okay biblically. And this tells us you should not delay it. Do it as soon as you receive that increase or receive that production or whatever. I'm working on getting in the habit of, whenever I see money go in my bank account or whatever, to just go ahead and tithe right then and there, because that way I'm building the habit, and it's never going to be something that it's like, oh, I forgot about it, let me do it now, which is, a delay. I don't know if that made sense, but that's just something that I'm trying to build that habit myself. So when I'm reading this, that's what I'm thinking about. So I thought I would share it with y'all. Okay, verse 30. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep 7 days. It shall be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be consecrated to me. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh that is torn by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. I don't know why it ends with that verse. I really don't. I am not God. I don't know. But I just think that that is interesting. That he ends with, you should be consecrated to God. At least the way that our Bible is split up into chapters and verses, that's how it ends. We'll continue with we'll continue with chapter 23 next week. I'm actually going to go read it right now and study it and put together my thoughts on that for next week. And I will talk to you all then. Bye.